In a previous interview, you talked about struggling throughout the season. So what changed and how are you able to turn the page so that the end of the season went a lot better?
Lexie Hull was on the verge of fading into obscurity. A former 6th overall pick who once looked like a future cornerstone, she was buried on the Indiana Fever bench, collecting splinters instead of minutes, while fans whispered about her becoming a draft bust. But then everything changed with the arrival of Caitlin Clark, a once-in-a-generation star whose impact went far beyond scoring. Clark's presence didn't just revive the Fever's offense, it reignited Hull's confidence, reshaped her role, and quite literally saved her WNBA career.
So you have basketball in your genes. Your grandfather played basketball, your dad, and you have a twin sister who you played basketball with growing up. What was it like growing up in that family dynamic?
Well, we have a super competitive family, and having my dad play basketball collegiately, knew that basketball was going to be put in my hands at an early age, but my parents were, super excited about having us try every sport imaginable. So yeah, we grew up, my sister and I, playing a little bit of everything.
At the start of 2024, Hull's career seemed stuck. Despite her college success at Stanford, she couldn't break into the Fever's rotation and often watched from the sidelines as others took her place. The team itself stumbled badly, raising questions about its direction. For Hull, it was a painful adjustment from being a star to barely playing, but she refused to give up, trusting that her persistence and preparation would eventually pay off.
I think it was important to get to know her off the court because I do think that, connections, getting to know people really play a part in the success of teams.
Hull's competitive spirit was shaped long before the WNBA. Growing up in a basketball family with her father and grandfather playing and a twin sister always by her side, competition was part of daily life. While her parents encouraged her to try every sport, basketball was always at the core. That foundation built resilience, giving Hull the toughness she would need later when her professional journey tested her in ways she never imagined.
She's been called the clutch player by WNBA fans, and she was drafted to the W in 2022 with the Indiana Fever in the first round as the 6th pick. I'm talking about professional basketball player Lexie Hull.
Everything shifted when Caitlin Clark arrived in Indiana. Her presence instantly changed the team's energy and identity. Clark wasn't just a scorer. She pulled defenders, opened lanes, and raised the standard in practices. For Hull, it meant opportunity. Suddenly, every cut mattered, every fast break had purpose, and passes were finding her in spots she never expected. What once felt like scraps of minutes now became a chance to redefine her career.
At the beginning of the season, my playing time definitely looked different than it did at the end. So trusting that, I was staying ready, putting in the work so that when I did get the minutes out on the court, that I could take full advantage of them. So I was just really proud of myself for trusting the process and staying the course.
At first, Hull admitted the transition was overwhelming. Going from star to bench player left her questioning her future, but she kept grinding. She sharpened her jumper, focused on smarter cuts, and leaned on the encouragement of teammates who believed in her. That steady work paid off once Clark's playmaking opened the floor. Hull suddenly found herself in rhythm, hitting shots and gaining confidence with every possession she touched.
The basketball part of the transition is really tough. Everybody out on the court was one of the best players on their college teams, definitely the best player likely from their high school team. So it's just this mishmash of the best basketball players, and then you're playing against people that have been there for years and years.
The Fever's season start was brutal, stumbling to a 1-8 record and drawing harsh criticism from fans and media. Morale was low, rotations looked broken, and chemistry seemed non-existent. For Hull, the frustration was doubled. She was barely seeing the court while the team collapsed around her. Yet she refused to check out. Instead, she doubled down on staying ready, putting in extra reps, and preparing for the moment she'd be called. That patience became her lifeline once Clark's arrival shifted the landscape. Suddenly, Indiana's offense had direction, practices had intensity, and Hull's role grew. She realized that playing alongside stars like Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston didn't diminish her value. It elevated it. By focusing on spacing, making sharp cuts, and trusting her shot, Hull began carving out a niche as a reliable option, turning frustration into opportunity.
We were just sick that we had lost so many games, and also feeling like we were better than that. Part of my role is just getting to the open spots, and we have such a good offense that people find the open person. So to be that open person, you get excited. You get excited for the opportunity to shoot and score, and be part of the, the momentum.
Before we dive deeper, don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell icon so you never miss out on more basketball stories like this one. Now, back to Lexie Hull's journey. What made Clark's impact so powerful wasn't just the points she scored, it was the way she elevated everyone around her. Hull described how every cut now had meaning. Every fast break felt like a real scoring chance, and Clark's vision created opportunities she never imagined. Even in practice, Clark demanded intensity, pushing teammates to compete at a higher level. That energy was contagious, forcing the entire roster to rise with her. For Hull, this was transformational. She went from hoping to touch the ball to confidently expecting it, knowing that if she moved with purpose, Clark could and would find her. That shift in mentality reignited her confidence and redefined her role.
What is it like playing off of Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston?
I mean, they make my job really easy, right? It's awesome. And it's really cool to see all of them just grow, not only from this year, but playing 3 years with Kelsey, 2 years with Aaliyah. They're so impressive.
Hull admitted that what impressed her most was Clark's maturity and leadership beyond just the game itself. She wasn't only creating highlight passes, she was instilling confidence in her teammates. If Hull missed a shot, Clark was the first to reassure her, reminding her to take the next one without hesitation. That kind of support mattered, especially for a player rebuilding her confidence. Meanwhile, the Fever's offense began to click, evolving into one of the most exciting units in the league. Practices turned into battles where Clark refused to let standards slip, and the team fed off that competitiveness. For Hull, the results were clear. She was no longer just surviving in the WNBA, she was thriving. Each game became another chance to prove she belonged, and with every shot and smart cut, she was reclaiming her place in the league.
And I think it's really fun because they garner so much attention, obviously, from the other team's defense, so then it allows the other players, me included, to make cuts, make reads, and they're really good at finding, those openings and giving the ball up when it's needed and finding the better shot. So it's really fun, and I feel really lucky to get to play with them.
By mid-season, the transformation was undeniable. Hull was no longer just a role player waiting for scraps of minutes. She had become a trusted piece of Indiana's offense. The Olympic break played a huge role in her resurgence, as a full month of practice allowed her to refine her game. Coaches tracked shooting percentages daily, giving players constant feedback. Hull thrived in that environment, using the data to build confidence and consistency. She saw her numbers climb, which proved that all the extra hours were paying off. And when the Fever returned to play, Hull was ready. With defenses locked in on Clark and Kelsey Mitchell, she found herself cutting into open lanes, knocking down shots, and becoming a dependable scoring option. For the first time in her pro career, Hull wasn't just fighting to stay in the rotation. She was actively shaping games, contributing to wins, and proving she belonged at the WNBA level.
I mean, I definitely got passes and tried to finish when I wasn't expecting to get the ball. So now it's okay, every cut I have, every cut I make, every fast break I run, I have a real opportunity to get the ball, which definitely took me a second. And I think it really just took one of those to really get my head around oh, she's all the way down at the other end of the floor and she could still make the pass to me down at the block at this end. So it's been awesome.
The Fever's rise wasn't only measured in wins, it was felt in the atmosphere. Sold-out arenas became the new normal, and Hull described the thrill of walking into stadiums buzzing with energy, something Indiana hadn't experienced in years. On the road, it often felt like home games, with fans packing seats just to catch a glimpse of Clark and the rejuvenated Fever. For Hull, this surge of support was surreal. Grocery store runs turned into autograph sessions, and casual walks around Indianapolis brought fist bumps and shouts of encouragement. But with fame came pressure. Every play was scrutinized on social media, and every loss sparked online debates. Hull admitted the noise could be overwhelming, but she leaned on her teammates and support system to stay grounded. Together, the Fever embraced the spotlight, turning pressure into motivation and proving they were no longer the league's punchline. They were contenders.
It's so fun to be able to know that you're not just cutting to cut, knowing that you're cutting with the possibility of actually making a really cool play. So that makes it that much more worthwhile.
What stood out most to Hull was how the culture inside the locker room shifted. Instead of crumbling under the weight of expectations, the Fever leaned into accountability and trust. Practices weren't just drills anymore. They were intense battles where every player was pushed to give their best. Clark set the tone, refusing to accept mediocrity, and the rest of the team followed her lead. That environment allowed Hull to grow, not just as a shooter or defender, but as a competitor who thrived under pressure. She began making clutch plays, hitting timely shots, and showing she could handle the spotlight. Hull explained that the unity within the roster was their secret weapon. No matter how tough the stretch, they never turned on each other. That bond translated on the court, fueling runs that reignited hope in Indianapolis and gave fans a team they could believe in again.
She sees the game at a bigger scale, obviously with the platform that she's created for herself, and then that's transitioned to the game. It's huge. And I think, like, for me, especially as a point guard and as someone that's delivering a lot of the passes that lead to shots, like, if I miss, she's definitely going to say, like, you got the next one. Like, I can count on her for keeping me, like, confident and positive. So yeah, I think that shows the player that she is and the leader she is as a point guard.
For Hull, the journey was deeply personal. She reflected on the sting of her first 2 seasons, when poor shooting numbers and limited attempts left her frustrated despite endless hours in the gym. The Olympic break changed that narrative. With daily shooting stats posted after practice, Hull found herself competing not just against teammates, but against her own past inefficiencies. That accountability turned into motivation, and soon her percentages began climbing. She admitted it felt validating to finally see the results match the work she had been putting in for years. By the second half of the season, she was no longer nervous about missing shots. She was confident in taking them. Hull credited Clark's gravity on the court for creating those open looks, but it was Hull's preparation that allowed her to seize the moment. In many ways, it was the perfect blend of opportunity meeting readiness.
It's really awesome to get to know her as well because, you know, she's a great person, but you have all these expectations put on her, and our team has put on her, and fans have put on her. So to see her kind of be so mature in that transition, it's been really awesome, and I'm just really proud to, you know, have her on the team, and it's been exciting.
The Fever's resurgence became one of the league's biggest stories, and Hull's growth was a key part of it. She thrived alongside stars like Clark, Mitchell, and Boston, feeding off their gravity while proving she could be a reliable weapon in her own right. But the real magic, Hull said, happened behind the scenes. Practices became wars, filled with competitiveness that forced every player to improve. Coaches noticed the shift, fans embraced it, and suddenly the Fever had an identity rooted in grit and trust. For Hull, being part of that transformation was something she called really special, because it wasn't just about wins, it was about proving they belonged on the biggest stage. And here's where I'll turn it to you. Do you think Caitlin Clark's arrival saved just Hull's career, or did it completely rewrite the future of the Fever as a franchise? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
The Indiana Fever had a history-making year. What was that like for you to be a part of that?
I'm really grateful for the opportunity to not only play in the WNBA, but to be on a team like the Indiana Fever. I've seen so much growth, not only on the team side, how we're performing on the court, but also the growth in fans. I mean, on the road, it felt like home games. We're playing in sold out arenas that we have not played in the last 2 years before that. So, I mean, it's just really exciting.
As the season progressed, the Fever's success wasn't just measured by their record, but by the atmosphere surrounding the team. Hull described the adrenaline of stepping into sold-out arenas, something Indiana hadn't experienced in years. The crowd's energy gave the players a sense of momentum, fueling their confidence even in tough matchups. For Hull, it was surreal to feel the outpouring of support. Fans who had quietly rooted for her during her struggles now stepped forward, reminding her that they had believed in her all along. That recognition gave her an emotional boost, reinforcing that she was part of something much bigger than herself. The Fever were no longer viewed as a rebuilding project. They were becoming a must-watch team in the WNBA. Hull's steady improvement symbolized the franchise's own growth. Patience, persistence, and the right leadership could flip an entire narrative.
I think one thing that our coaches did during that break, I mean, we had a full month of practice pretty much during the Olympic break, and they would put up every day after practice our shooting percentages from 2s and 3s during drills, during scrimmages, during everything. And I think that helped me because
some people would probably like, it's so annoying, whatever, but I personally liked it.
Off the court, life changed just as dramatically for Hull and her teammates. What once felt like quiet anonymity in Indianapolis turned into constant recognition. A quick grocery store trip could spark fist bumps and chants of "Go Fever" from fans, showing how much the city had rallied behind the team. Hull admitted the fame was both thrilling and overwhelming, as every performance was dissected online. Wins brought waves of praise, but losses carried heavy criticism. Social media, she explained, was a double-edged sword, motivating at times, but mentally exhausting when negativity piled up. That's where the Fever's culture became essential. The locker room turned into a safe haven, where players reminded each other of their strengths and focused on growth instead of outside noise. This bond allowed Hull to keep perspective and reminded the team that they weren't just playing games, they were building something lasting.
Numbers don't lie, unfortunately, and they're very drastic. My first 2 years, I was just so upset because I was putting in so much work, and my shooting percentages, I would granted get like 1 or 2 at the max threes a game. So it's hard to be super efficient when the pressure is really on for those couple shots. But the numbers don't lie, so it really allows you to look at improvements and really shoot for goals and keep yourself like accountable.
Hull's resurgence mirrored the Fever's transformation as a whole. Once dismissed as a struggling franchise, Indiana suddenly became one of the most talked about teams in the WNBA. Hull credited Clark as the ultimate catalyst, calling her not just a star, but a leader who made everyone better. But she also emphasized that the team's rise wasn't about one player alone. It was the unity, accountability, and resilience that turned potential into results. Hull spoke with pride about never turning on each other during the rough stretches, instead pushing forward together. That mindset fueled their climb from being overlooked to becoming contenders, and it gave fans a new sense of belief. For Hull personally, it was the validation she had been searching for since entering the league. Proof that patience, preparation, and trust in the process could revive a career many had already written off.
All of these people were supporting me this whole time, and I didn't know that they were supporting me until that moment. So like, you kind of forget that there's these people behind the scenes until they come out of the woodwork and say like, I've been following along this whole time. Like, I'm so proud of you. And that just feels so good to know that there's, such a community behind everybody on our team, even when you don't hear it every day.
Looking ahead, Hull sees the Fever's story as only beginning, with Caitlin Clark leading the way, Aaliyah Boston dominating inside, and Kelsey Mitchell's scoring punch. Indiana isn't just rebuilding anymore. They're shaping into a powerhouse. Hull acknowledged the league is growing more competitive, with bigger crowds, stronger coaches, and more eyes on every game than ever before. That spotlight brings pressure, but also opportunity. For Hull, it's about continuing to refine her role, staying consistent, and contributing to a culture that values grit and accountability. She knows the expectations will only grow, but she believes this group has the talent and chemistry to rise to the challenge. As she put it, we're not just playing for ourselves, we're playing for something bigger. The Fever's ceiling is rising, and Hull is determined to be part of the foundation as they chase WNBA elite status.
And you and Erica Wheeler started swapping outfits, so where did that idea come from?
Our styles are so drastically different. So we were just joking, like, I wonder what it would look like if you could pull it off. And the first outfit was something so outside of what I would have ever picked out of my closet. And I'm like, that's not going to look good on me. I'm like, all right, let's try. So then I tried it on and everyone was like, you pull it off, you pull it off. So then it just became part of the pregame tradition. And it's a really fun, lighthearted way to just, get us in the mood to play.
Lexie Hull's journey is proof that perseverance pays off, but it also highlights how one player can transform an entire franchise. Caitlin Clark didn't just bring buckets, she brought belief, accountability, and a culture shift that reignited the Fever. Hull embraced that spark, turning doubts into determination and carving out a vital role on one of the WNBA's most exciting teams. From bench questions to sold-out arenas, her career has been reborn, and Indiana has found its identity. Yet this feels like only the beginning. With Clark leading, Boston dominating, Mitchell scoring, and Hull thriving, the Fever could be on the verge of something historic. The real question is, do you think this young core has what it takes to become the next WNBA dynasty? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next big story.